I'm so tired of dating. In fact, I
Mm,
am so tired of being a Christian in the dating world. I get nowhere. It's a morass. There's no way to get through it. There's no path through it. It's
mm,
a mystery to me, and I'm done with it. Well, that's something we've heard fairly common from a number of people, particularly younger adults. And with that in mind, Lynn and I developed a guidebook to help Christians essentially negotiate their way, their path through the
mm,
minefield of dating. And we call it the Dating with a Purpose, um, Clear Signs Ahead. So it is intended to be like a guidebook. And in our last two videos, we talked about this guidebook. There are three categories that comprise this guidebook. They all begin with the letter M, and they all ask a question. So the first category is the category master, and it asks the question: the person you're dating, is their master Jesus Christ?
mm,
The second category beginning with an M is maturity or mature. Is your dating partner mature?
mm,
And the third category, uh, beginning with an M, is called mutuality or mutual. Is this relationship that you have mutual? So that's the one we're going to focus on today. Is your relationship mutual? There are we kind of boiled this down to three questions in trying to
mm,
determine if your relationship is mutual. And I think the first we've kind of hammered through in the first two videos, and it asks this question: Is your relationship that is the relationship that you have, is the growth in God that you have and getting closer to Him and becoming a more obedient Christian and so on? Is your partner doing the same thing? Is your partner spending the time and the energy to grow as you are in your Christian walk? So that's the
mm,
first question. The second question is your partner spending the same amount of time or a similar amount of time and energy in growing your relationship with each other um, as you are? Are they spending the
mm,
same similar amount of energy and time in growing the relationship between the two of you as you are? All of these are important, and we often find that most of the answers to these questions take time to really appreciate
mm,
and know for sure. But the third question, and it's a little bit more involved, is the of mutuality, is this question: Is the person you're dating, does that person share some of the same core values that you have? And we would even be more specific. Do they have some of the same Christian values that you have? So, what
mm,
are Christian core values? Well, core values are beliefs or principles that you hold strongly to.
mm,
They really define who we are and what we do. Those are core values. But
mm,
Christian core values are really born out of our relationship with God and are scriptural. I mean, you can find them in scripture. You know them because they are scriptural. Those are Christian core values. We have developed a list of what we would call Christian core values that are relevant to any of us, any people. Not Lynn and I are not dating. Thankfully, we're happily married. But to any marriage or any person's dating, you want to see you're really determining if the person you're dating is sharing some of the core values that are
mm,
important to you as a Christian. And these are the ones that relate to dating and marriage. Their core values, their Christian core values, that can be applied to things other than marriage and dating, but they're very relevant to those two areas. So the list that we have come up with, it's a long list. In fact, you can download that list from this video. In fact, it wouldn't be a bad idea to do that and follow along this list, and you'll have a better idea of kind of what we're talking about as we go through the list. We're not going to go through the whole list. It's a list of 10, 11 core values that we've picked are important and to Christians who are in marriage or are seriously dating. So what we did, we decided to say, okay, what are the top 4 Christian core values out of this list that each of us have? Now, I'm going to say this right up front. Lynn and I share all the core values that are on this list. This is our list. We developed it. So we share all of these. But, some of these are more important to Lynn than they are to me. Because they're important to Lynn, they're important to me as well. My top 4 and Lynn's top 4 are similar, and that 2 of those core values are the same. Okay. So let's go through our lists here, and let's go through the shared core values that we have, those 2 that we share that are Christian core values that are relevant to our marriage. So the 2 of those are, and I say these are 2 by themselves, trust and honesty. Trust and honesty are 2 sides of the same coin. So trust and honesty, that's one core value that we share. And forgiveness is the other core value that we share, that we know is so important in dating and in marriage. So Lynn, you want to comment? So why is forgiveness so important to you as a Christian core value for our marriage?
Well, you can't, if you hold on, you could become bitter, hold on to unforgiveness. It can affect you in a lot of ways, including getting sick even. It's just, it's just so important because you can't really go further. You can't go on, move forward
in a relationship
without forgiveness. So
yeah. And so we actually coached a couple.
I was going to share about a couple that we coached that was their problem. A big problem for them was unforgiveness. And when we pointed out, we saw some things that they weren't seeing with each other as far as unforgiveness. When they asked each other to forgive each other, it just changed. She would, especially one person was ready to leave.
Yeah.
And there'd be a divorce. But with this forgiveness, it just changed everything. They're together. They have a good marriage now.
Yeah.
But it was really dividing them.
Yeah. Yeah. Forgiveness has so many implications. Unforgiveness has so many implications in marriage. We can't go into it, but that couple is a living proof that unforgiveness will divide and will split a marriage and lead to divorce. Forgiveness can lead to the complete opposite, and that's what this couple represents. So so trust and honesty for me and for Lynn are absolutely key. They're cornerstones of a relationship, a marriage relationship or a dating relationship. Without trust and honesty, I don't know what you have in a dating or marriage relationship. When I first met Lynn, I had come off a relationship that was a very serious relationship, dating relationship. And that person violated my trust in a number of ways that I had my radar out for the next person that I dated, and it was Lynn. If I saw one hint of something I couldn't trust, a lie, or I said I'll be here, but I'm not, or some area of dishonesty, I would have ended the relationship. But that wasn't Lynn. Lynn, if she said she was going to do something, she did it. If she said she'd be somewhere, she was there. She might be a little late, but she was there. And I am so thankful that that I met her. And because if that had been violated, I mean, this is the problem with trust, and we all know this. Trust can be violated in minutes, but can take years to regain. So trust and honesty are at the top of my list for Christian core values in a marriage, and for Lynn, for forgiveness. So we have two other, Lynn has two other Christian core values from our long list here that she's going to share, and kind of the why they're so important to her. And I'll share up my two.
Yeah, for me, the next is respect, because I can give an example. I dated somebody for a while before I met Phil in my 20s, and he never seemed to, he put me down. I guess he didn't trust me. He was angry a lot about a lot of things, and he just I didn't feel respected. But the worst part that it just ended the relationship was when one time he got so angry, he threw a glass of wine in my face. That did it, because my dad and my uncle, who's my dad's brother, had taught me at a young age that no man a man that you go out with or marry should respect you. That was a tenet in my family. So
Yeah. And that's definitely a two-way street, isn't it? I mean, mutual
or
respect.
the woman with the
Yeah,
man, right?
Yeah. Mutual respect is absolutely so key. It's an area I think I struggled with a little bit in our marriage, because I was so critical, and I was such a perfectionist. And I had to learn from Lynn why respect is not just a core value, and appreciate her core value, but it needed to become mine. It's a Christian core value.
Another thing about respect is respecting I guess when I say something, it isn't, I don't have to quote my sources or anything. Like it's accepted.
Yeah.
That this is, yeah, I've read it somewhere, so I'm given the benefit of the doubt. It's respect.
Yeah.
There's so many things about respect I could go into, but
and the Bible says in the book of First Peter, it says, and this is from the Message: show proper respect to everyone, love the family and believers, fear God, honor the emperor. Can you imagine? Show proper respect to everyone is the same level as loving the family of believers, the same level as fearing God, the same level of, at that time, honoring the emperor. That was the Emperor of Rome, of course. So we are to do that. This is a mandate. This is a Christian mandate. So what's the other one? Respect was the other one.
They're kind of together, compassion and empathy. And they're important to me because it's who I am. I've always been this way. If I see a person or animal hurting or emotionally or physically, I just, my heart, I have a burden for them, and I want to help them in some way.
Yeah.
And that's what I saw Phil being the same. He loved my cats.
Yeah, you had great cats when I first met you.
When I met you, and that's important. I couldn't go out with somebody that didn't love animals.
Yeah.
It sounds funny, but to me, that compassion, that empathy, and as a doctor, that
if I didn't have that, why was I in?
Why would he be
why would I become a physician?
You
know, we were in Italy a few years ago, and waiting to catch a bus to our to where we were staying, and there was a couple there who were American, as it turns out, and they were waiting for the same bus, and it took a while to get there. It was in the evening, and people were getting a little tired and so on. And we started talking with this couple. They were, I think, from California. And I noticed
they're on their honeymoon.
They were on their honeymoon. And I noticed that every time the guy took a step, he winced in pain. And I think both of us asked him, I said, "Are you all right?" I think Lynn asked him if he was okay. he said, well, I've had this back pain since we arrived in Italy and it's our honeymoon, and it's just, and I just saw Lynn's compassion come alive. It's just who she is. And she just asked without even thinking, she said, can I pray for you? And we prayed. We sat there on the side of the street, lots of people lined up, to get a bus, waiting for the bus. Um, Prayed for him for, I don't know, maybe 5, 10 minutes. And within 5 to 10 minutes, his back pain was totally gone. That would not have happened were it not for the compassion that drives Lynn. So you can see why this is a Christian core value for her. It's biblical. Compassion was who Jesus was. It's certainly a core value that at some point should be one of ours. It may not be your top 4, but it's in Lynn's top 4, and therefore it's in my list of core values as well. Well, I've got 2 core values that were different from Lynn's, and one of them is commitment. As coaches, we spend a lot of time in our first coaching session, and this is usually just a free session. We're getting to know a couple to see if it's going to be a good fit for all 4 of us, and we spend a ton of time in that trying to determine how committed that couple is, because we don't want to waste their time, and they don't want to waste our time if they're not committed to this marriage. Well, if you're dating someone, you want to know if they're committed to this relationship or not. And if you're dating seriously, you need to ask them. If you have doubts about their commitment, you need to ask them openly. So how are you committed in this relationship, and define what that commitment looks like to you? Do you want, if it's to marriage, then talk about it. We find couples are reluctant to even talk about that. It needs to be talked about. But there are a few signs that I think would lead you to think that relationship is not, that other person may not be committed to the relationship. And I'm just going to say this, they may not be committed because they're not ready. They may not be committed because you're not the one. Okay, you ought to know this. But if you see, but these are the signs of commitment. If you see a person who you're dating with these signs, then you're pretty well certain that they are committed. The first one is they're taking time for you. They're spending time with you. They're taking time to get to know you. That's pretty obvious. Another one would be they remember things that are important to you. It might be a birthday, a special birthday, or a special memory that you had, or whatever. Things that are important to you are important to them. Another one, and this seems pretty obvious to me, but maybe not so to others. This person is not going to be flirting with others. If they're committed to you, they're not flirting with others. They're not, so to speak, playing the field. They're not flirting with others. If they're committed to you, the promises that they make to you, they keep to you. They keep their promises. If they're committed to you, then they're not going to share any details of your relationship or any of your secrets with others. That would be a real red flag for me. That's a trust.
Yeah, they're confidential.
They're not confidential. That's a problem. They need to be confidential in commitment. They take the time to think of ways to make your relationship stronger. They're always moving in that direction. We're going to have a stronger relationship. What does that look like? How can we do that? They tell you openly that they want to see your relationship last. And in fact, they take the steps to do that. These are just some of the ways that you know if the person you're dating is committed. Okay. The second of the 2 core values, Christian core values, that are important to me is this thing called intimacy. Now, a lot of us, when we think of intimacy, we go right to, oh, physical intimacy, sex, and so on. That's not what I'm talking about. When I talk about intimacy, I mean, certainly in marriage, physical intimacy is a gift to God, from God to us. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about emotional intimacy. I'm talking about vulnerability. Um, because and I think the best way that comes forward is the way that is what I call into me see. You know, remember that relationship I told you about a little earlier, that of the person that I had with before I met Lynn. I didn't know why we broke up. Um, I was after that I was very wounded after she broke up with me. Before I met Lynn, my heart was so guarded that I put up walls between me and any other woman to get to know me. So when Lynn and I first started going out, I would have failed the intimacy test, because I wasn't letting her in. I wasn't going to let anybody in until I knew them well. And maybe that wasn't a bad idea. At some point, I realized I had to be vulnerable. And Lynn was very vulnerable about her emotions. And so she kind of led the way, and I realized she was safe, she was honest, she was forgiving, she was had all these great qualities. And so intimacy became something that I not only that I worked towards, I really worked hard to be that way. So intimacy as a Christian core value is really, really important. So here's what I think would be good to do. I would take the downloaded sheet of Christian core values that are relevant for marriage and or dating, and I would go through that, read through this. We've got, remember, Christian core values are supported by Scripture. And so read through where these come from, know them, convince yourself that they are true. And then what I would do is I would take your top four Christian core values, circle them, know why they are your top four Christian core values, try to sort that out, and then look for those Christian core values in the person you're dating. If you are not seeing any of those core values, or if you're having problems with any of those, you need to have a discussion with that person and say, listen, this is who I am. We need to share some of these core values, and it may be important for them to share all of those four, if not more. So that's how I would use it. Make sure you download this, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Take care. Hang on.